Hey all, welcome to Homeschool, and it's been a long time meeting you all, and here I have come up with haloalkanes and haloarenes, that is chemical properties of haloalkanes. So today in this video we are going to complete this haloalkane part. Okay, so we have already discussed about the preparations, right? And we have solved in-text questions all about the classification, introduction, etc, etc. And today the final video on haloalkanes, that is the most important topic, chemical properties of haloalkanes. Chemical properties in the sense it's the chemical reactions. So what are the different reactions shown by haloalkanes? What are the different kinds of products you're going to form by these chemical reactions? So all that we are going to cover under this video. So don't forget to watch the video till the end, because I'll be covering the most important chemical properties that can be asked for any competitive examinations. Okay, so we have three chemical reactions that we have to study here. The first one is nucleophilic substitution reactions. Nucleophilic substitution reactions. Okay, so very important. And second one, elimination reactions. Elimination reactions. And thirdly, we have reaction with metals. Okay, so these are the three main reactions we should study. And coming to the first type of reaction, that is nucleophilic substitution reaction, right? The most important chemical property. The name itself says nucleophilic substitution. We all know the general formula of alkyl halide is Rx. So what we do is we add a nucleophile. Nucleophile in the sense something that is rich in electrons. Okay, so it can be OH minus, it can be any nucleophile with negative charge, or any nucleophile with lone pair of electrons. Okay, so you should take the species, the atoms, groups or ions which are rich in electrons. That is called nucleophile. So what we do, generally we represent with Nu. So I am not taking a specific example, I am just writing this as Nu. What we do here is we substitute the position of X with nucleophile. So in the place of X, nucleophile comes. So what are you going to get? You will get Rnu plus X will come out as X minus. So this is the general reaction for nucleophilic substitution. So we are substituting X with whom? With nucleophile. So the name nucleophilic substitution reaction. Nucleophile can be anything. It can be any group or atom, okay, or it can be any atom with ion with negative charge. Clear? Fine. And you know, this process, the way X getting substituted by nucleophile can proceed with two different mechanisms. Okay, so here we are trying to study two mechanisms for nucleophilic substitution reaction. First one is SN1 mechanism and second one SN2 mechanism. So here S stands for substitution, N stands for nucleophilic, okay, and 1 stands for unimolecular, right? So this is the full form of SN1. Similarly, SN2 stands for substitution, nucleophilic, bimolecular. Okay, so these are the full forms of SN1 and SN2. So mechanism in the sense how actually X is coming out and how actually Nu is going in the place of X. So you are studying in a detailed way, step by step. That's what we mean by mechanism. So we have two ways of proceeding a reaction. So that is, these are the two mechanisms. So first let us try to discuss SN1 and later SN2 and later SN1. Okay, or we'll just study both of them together so that it will be very easier for us to differentiate between SN1 and SN2. Okay, so let's study both of them. One side SN2, the other side SN1. Look at here. So for learning SN2 mechanism, we are taking a simple alkyl halide as an example. Okay, so let me take methyl bromide. So I am taking methyl bromide as an example. Okay, so here the nucleophile attacks from backside. See, nucleophile, let me take OH minus as an example for nucleophile. Okay, so it is attacking from backside. Backside in the sense here, the side opposite to halogen. Okay, so if halogen you are writing on a right side, then left side will be a backside. If you write the halogen atom onto a left, then right side of the molecule is backside. Okay, so now I have written halogen this side, so you know backside is this. So OH will always attack from backside. Okay, so OH is attacking this carbon because here the carbon is electropositive, right? So CBr bond is more polar in the sense Br is more electronegative. As a result of that, bond is moving more towards Br, so that carbon is becoming positive. So a negative one always attacks a positive one. That's how a chemical reaction takes place, especially in the organic chemistry. Okay, so here the positive one is carbon, electron deficient. So negative one is this nucleophile. So this nucleophile is attacking this carbon from backside. As a result of this backside attack, what you will observe is, and you know this is the slowest step in the reaction. See, a weak bond is formed with OH. Okay, so a weak bond, see I have written a dotted lines here. So this represents a very weak bond is getting formed with OH, and this CBr bond is there now, that also slowly becomes weaker and weaker. And these three hydrogen bonds, they are present as it is, right? If you look at this molecule, around carbon, you actually have 5 bonds. Okay, so this is a kind of intermediate that is formed. So in the intermediate, okay, which we also call it as transition state. This is also called with the name transition state. So in a transition state, if you could observe, carbon has 5 bonds around it, where the 2 bonds are weaker. So this bond is weakly getting formed and this bond is going to break down. Okay. This is very unstable state. Carbon should always have 4 bonds. One of the bonds should break it completely, right? So which is that bond getting broken completely? This bond. So now this bond will break completely. So as a result of this, you will get the product 3 hydrogens as it is and OH attached in the place of Br, but in the opposite side. Right? So in the place of Br, you finally have a nucleophile OH, but in a opposite side. This is what we call SN2 mechanism. So this is one way by which a nucleophile is getting substituted in the place of halogen. Okay, so this is very important for board point of view. Okay, and if you are a student of Karnataka board, that is PUC, definitely this mechanism or SN1, one in both is a compulsory question for 3 marks. Okay, so you should neatly write a mechanism and then few points. So what are the points that you can write? Point number 1. So you should mention that here the OH minus, which is nothing but a nucleophile, attacks from backside. Attacks from backside. Okay, so forming a transition state and later transition state is unstable, that gives you a final product. So the whole point you can write. I am just mentioning the keywords, okay, key points. And next thing is, it is a single step reaction. Single step reaction. So everything happens at the same time. Attack of nucleophile and the elimination of living group. Halogen is coming outside, right? So we call halogen here as a living group. Okay, so attack of nucleophile, elimination of living group, both of them are taking place at the same time. So that's why it's just a single step mechanism. And here, rate of a reaction in the sense the speed of a reaction. Speed of a reaction in the sense how fastly you are going to get a product or how slow is the product formation. This is what we mean by speed of a reaction. Speed of a reaction always depends on the slowest step. Okay. Say in the slowest step, what are the reagents or the reactants involved? Nucleophile and alkyl halide molecule. So here, rate of the reaction, that is the speed of the reaction, depends both on the concentration of alkyl halide and the concentration of nucleophile. Okay, so if I represent a square bracket like this, then it means the concentration. Okay, so since the speed depends on the slowest step includes these are the reactants. So I can say that rate is directly proportional to concentration of alkyl halide and concentration of nucleophile. So both the concentrations are very, very important to have this SN2 mechanism. Okay, so look at here, rate is depending on two molecules, right? So that is why we call the reaction is bimolecular. So this is the reason why we say, why we put this 2 here. This 2 in the sense bimolecular. So why do we say the reaction is bimolecular? Reason is this. Okay. So speed depends on the concentration of two molecules here. One is alkyl halide, the other one is nucleophile. So it is bimolecular. And another important point that you should remember here is, simple alkyl halide, that is CH3X, is more reactive than primary alkyl halide, than secondary and than tertiary. Okay, see, if the simple alkyl halide is there, it will always follow SN2 mechanism for a nucleophilic substitution. If there was a tertiary alkyl halide, attack of nucleophile will not happen this way. The reason is steric hindrance. So why tertiary is less reactive for SN2? The reason is steric hindrance. So what do we mean by the word steric hindrance? Observe here. Tertiary, if I take, let me take this example for tertiary butyl bromide. Okay, and we all know in the mechanism nucleophile must attack from backside. Nucleophile must go in between these groups, and it should find space to go and attack this carbon, right? If it was a simple methyl bromide, hydrogen groups are there around carbon, they are much smaller. So nucleophile can easily go and attack. It will find nice space to go and attack. Whereas, look at these groups in tertiary, you have CH3 groups around this carbon. This nucleophile must go and attack this carbon. So this fellow will not find that much space to go and attack this carbon. Why? Because they are all bigger groups. So there is too much crowd on this carbon. Okay. So since lot of crowd is there, this crowdiness itself we will call it as steric hindrance. Okay. So because of the crowd, there is no much space for OH minus, for a nucleophile to go and attack. So that's the reason tertiary alkyl halides are least reactive towards SN2. So this point is very, very important for competitive examinations. Okay. So this is the most important points that you need to know about SN2 mechanism. And coming to SN1 mechanism, it's quite different from this. Okay. For showing SN1, I will take the example of tertiary butyl halide. Tertiary butyl halide as an example. Okay. So here I am taking tertiary butyl chloride. So initially what happens is this CBr bond will break. Okay. So how does this bond break? It's because of the solvent that we use here. In case of SN1, we will use polar protic solvent. Okay, so very important. The best example for polar protic solvent is H2O. So here solvent will give H plus ions. Polar in the sense what? Having polarity in a molecule. So best example for polar molecule is water. Protic in the sense the one that can able to give H pluses. Okay, so there are lots of H pluses from H2O. So these H pluses will come and surround around Br. Okay, so they'll come and surround around Br. As a result of that, Br will become more heavier. Okay, so this ion will become more heavy. Since this has become more heavy, bond will break down. So that way CBr bond will first completely break down. Once the bond is broken, what happens? You will get a carbocation, right? So you will get a carbocation, something like this. So C will have a positive charge. Okay, so this is our first step, and here the first step is the slowest step. So what is the first step? Formation of carbocation. So first step has got a name. We will call it as formation of carbocation. Okay, fine. And now what happens is, to this carbocation that has formed in the first step, nucleophile will come and attack. Okay, so now in the second step, the nucleophile attacks this C+. So once the nucleophile attacks C+, you will have a bond between C and OH, and you will get this product, tertiary butyl alcohol. Okay, so this step is called attack of nucleophile. So here the nucleophilic substitution is taking place in two steps. First step is formation of carbocation. Second step is attack of nucleophile. Okay, fine. So here what all the points that you can write. So the first point is, right, like we have written here, OH minus, see we have explained the process in the first point. So here also you can tell first step includes the formation of carbocation, and then attack of nucleophile leads to the formation of product. So this way you can write. And the second point that you can write is, this is a two-step reaction. It is a two-step process. Okay, and the third point is, look at the slowest step is this, right? I told you speed of the reaction depends only on the slowest step. In this, the slowest step involves only one reagent. Nucleophile is coming next, but the slowest step involves only one reagent. So I can say that rate of the reaction is directly proportional to one and only concentration of alkyl halide. Okay, so rate of the reaction depends only on one reactant. That is why this one we have written there, unimolecular. Okay, right? So this is a very, very important point. And coming to another very, very important point here, tertiary alkyl halides are more reactive than secondary. Secondary is more reactive than primary. And also allyl halides and benzyl halides also follow SN1 mechanism for nucleophilic substitution. Okay, so can you tell me why this tertiary is following SN1 mechanism for nucleophilic substitution? It's because, look over here, mechanism involves the formation of carbocation. Okay, so we studied in class 11, among the three carbocations, tertiary carbocation is more stable, right? So the one which is more stable is more reactive in this case. Okay, so the more the stability of carbocation, more will be the reactivity. Nicely the second step can happen and nicely you can get the product. So that is the logic here. Okay, so look the differences here, that's most important. Here simple methyl halide is more favorable for SN2, I can say, but here tertiary alkyl halide is more favorable for SN1. Okay, so depending on the type of alkyl halide, you actually have to decide which mechanism they will follow, either SN1 or SN2. So on this questions will be asked. Okay, so they'll give you two molecules. Suppose say this is one molecule, this is like another molecule. Okay, so among these two, which one follows SN1 they'll ask, or which one follows SN2 they'll ask. So what you have to do, say this alkyl halide, there is CH2 here, this is primary alkyl halide and this is secondary alkyl halide, right? So for SN2, primary is more reactive, so this alkyl halide follows SN2 mechanism, whereas this alkyl halide follows SN1 mechanism. So this way questions can be asked about SN2 and SN1 for the competitive examinations. Okay, so this is all about the mechanism of SN1, SN2. Now let's learn few examples of nucleophilic substitution reactions. They are also very, very important. Look over here. The first example, which is very, very important. So whenever you have, I'm just showing the general equations for all different types of reactions actually. So this is the general formula for alkyl halide. So whenever we take aqueous NaOH or aqueous KOH, so aqueous NaOH will provide a nucleophile OH minus. So X will be replaced by OH minus and you will get a compound ROH, which are nothing but alcohols. So you will get alcohol varieties. Okay, so if the nucleophile is OH minus, you will get alcohol. So depending on the nucleophile, you will be getting the different organic compounds. Okay, so that's what nothing but the examples. Okay, and second one, RX, and to this, whenever moist Ag2O is added, moist Ag2O is nothing but AgOH, silver hydroxide. So here also OH minus is the nucleophile. So if that goes in the place of X, you will always get ROH. So here also you will get alcohols. And also look at this reaction. So even when you just add water, okay, we call this as solvolysis reaction. And here also OH minus is nucleophile. So even here you will get alcohols. So these three reagents, aqueous NaOH or aqueous KOH, moist silver oxide or water, whatever may be the reagent, you will always get alcohols from alkyl halides. So these are one set of examples that you should remember. And the other one is RX. For this, whenever KCN is added, alcoholic KCN is added, and here the molecule is ionic, so definitely K is plus, Cn is minus. So this is the nucleophile here. So this goes in the place of X and you would be getting RCN. Okay, so you will get cyanides as the products. Clear? But look over this reaction, this is very important, RX. So when you have AgCN, see, AgCN is not ionic. AgCN will never break down into Ag plus and Cn minus. Okay, so here lone pair present on nitrogen is there, no, that is the attacking center. So you will have a bond between N and R. Here R in the sense carbon, some carbon is there in that R group, isn't it? So you will get the product RNC. Okay, so you will get isocyanides here, isocyanides. So this is important. When KCN is added, cyanides. When AgCN is added, isocyanides. Why cyanides here? Because here the nucleophile is Cn minus. Why did you get Cn minus? Because the molecule is ionic. So why you did not get Cn minus here? Because it's a covalent. Covalent molecule will never break into ions, right? So here attacking center is N. So that's why bond is between R and N. Okay. So this point of difference is very important. Similar to this, you have these reactions. RX plus AgNO2. AgNO2 is ionic. Okay, remember AgCN is covalent, whereas AgNO2 is ionic. So here the nucleophile is NO2 minus. So you will get the compound RNO2, nitroalkanes you will get. Okay, so you would be getting nitroalkanes. Whereas RX plus KNO2 when you add, whereas this KNO2 is again covalent. Okay, so now the bond is between O and R. So there is lone pair on one of the oxygen atom. So that is the attacking center to R. So you will have a bond between R and O of this. So RONO. So nitrite, alkyl nitrites you will get. Okay, so this 4 reactions 1, 2, 3 and 4 are very, very, very important. Most of them will get confused here to write the product. So they'll ask you questions in the form of predict the products. Okay, so suppose they'll give you CH3, CH2, Br. So you have AgCN. What is the product? So the product is CH3, CH2, in the place of Br, NC will come. Suppose if there was KCN, what is the product? You will get CH3, CH2, CN, right? So this way, predicting product is very, very important. So these are the most important examples for nucleophilic substitution reactions. So with this, we have completed nucleophilic substitution reactions. Now we will go for the second chemical property, elimination reaction. See, this elimination reaction is also called with the name dehydrohalogenation. So the name itself says you D in the sense removal here. So we are removing one hydrogen and one halogen from whom? From alkyl halide. Okay, so from alkyl halide molecule, removing one hydrogen and halogen is called dehydrohalogenation. And we have another name for this. We also call this reaction as beta elimination reaction. Beta elimination. Okay, see, reaction happens in a very different way. Usually alkyl halides, when treated with alcoholic NaOH or KOH, see, aqueous NaOH or KOH, when you take, nucleophilic substitution reaction takes place, giving you alcohols as the major product. But look over the difference here. When you take alcoholic NaOH, beta elimination takes place. Alcoholic NaOH or KOH act like a base. Okay, so when they are acting like a base, beta elimination does occur and you will get alkenes as the major product. So this is the fine difference you should always understand. When you take aqueous varieties of these, alcohols are formed because that was a nucleophilic substitution where OH minus is a nucleophile, right? But when you take alcoholic NaOH or KOH, alkenes are the products. Okay, so here most of them will get confused where you have to be very, very careful. Okay, fine. Now let's see how do we get alkenes. Why do we call this as dehydrohalogenation or beta elimination? Okay, say here you should definitely take alkyl halide which has got beta hydrogen. So what do you mean by the word beta hydrogen here? So this is important to understand. See, halogen attached carbon. See, to this carbon, halogen is directly attached. Such a carbon is called alpha carbon. Next to alpha is called as beta carbon. And the hydrogens of beta carbon is called beta hydrogens. Okay, so you should at least have one beta hydrogen. Only then you can observe this reaction. Otherwise, you don't observe this reaction. Okay, so this is important. So what happens here is, let me write beta hydrogens in a elaborate way. So let me mention 1, 2, 3 beta hydrogens. Okay, so now base. What do you mean by base? This alcoholic NaOH or alcoholic KOH. So this base, what is so important aspect of the base? Why do you call something as a base? When it can accept H plus. A base is something that is accepting H plus, that is taking H plus. Okay, so this base is taking this H plus. So this H is going as H plus. Okay, so beta hydrogen is taken up by a base. Only beta hydrogen, not any other hydrogen. Okay, so when this H is going outside, this bond is there, no? That bond will shift here. Between alpha and beta, bond is shifting. So bond is shifting here in the sense pi bond is getting formed. And definitely this carbon, if a bond gets shifted here, you will have 5 bonds around carbon, no? So one of the bond has to be broken. So this bond will break and Br will go outside. Okay, so what is remaining? So here 2 hydrogens are remaining and here a double bond and CH2. So Br has gone outside as Br minus. So this is how you are getting alkene. See, from ethyl bromide you are getting ethene. So this is very, very important. This is what we call dehydrohalogenation or beta elimination. So here you will have to study one important concept. What if you have two beta carbons? What if you have two beta hydrogens on either side? Okay, so let's look at this example. Let me take CH3, CH, Br, CH2, CH2, CH3. So in the comment section, let me know the IUPAC name of this compound. Okay, so right now pause the video and write its IUPAC name in the comment section as early as possible. Okay, fine. So this particular alkyl halide, I am heating it with alcoholic KOH. Okay, so can you tell me what are the products you will get? So you have two possible products. You can write two different alkenes. Okay, so why do we get two alkenes here? Look over here. This is alpha. This carbon is beta, and you can call this carbon also has beta, right? The next carbons to alpha is called beta. So this is also the very next carbon connected to alpha. This is also very next carbon connected to alpha. So here two beta carbons are there. Both of them have hydrogen. So you have chance of removing hydrogen from this carbon, and you have chance of removing hydrogen from this carbon also. Okay, so now what if I remove hydrogen from this carbon first? Okay, so let me remove one of this hydrogen and this Br. What is alkene I get? CH2, here double bond CH, CH2, CH2, CH3, right? So I will get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 1 pentene. So we get 1 pentene as the alkene. If I consider this as a beta carbon, okay, so now I am considering this as a beta carbon. So I remove one of its hydrogen and this Br. So I will be getting double bond between these two carbons, right? So what is the product I will get? CH3, CH, double bond, CH, CH2, CH3. So this is 2 pentene. So this way I have a chance of getting two alkenes, but here this is a major product and this is a minor product. So on what basis we say that this is a major product? It is based on a very, very important rule called Sade-Gieff's rule. Okay, Sade-Gieff's rule. Sade-Gieff's rule says that highly substituted alkene is more stable. So what is the Sade-Gieff's rule? Highly substituted alkene is always considered as more stable. Highly substituted alkene in the sense what? See, I'll tell you a short trick when you can identify which one is highly substituted. If a double bond is there at the middle carbons, it's highly substituted, more stable alkene. But if the double bond is there at terminal carbon, that is at last carbon, it's not stable alkene. So this is one short trick to identify which is more stable alkene and which is less stable alkene. So when do you say more stable? When double bond is somewhere in the middle carbons. If double bond is there at the terminal carbon, last carbons, then that's not highly substituted. So this is the shortest way of remembering or identifying which alkene is more stable and less stable. Okay. So that is all about elimination reaction. So you have to be careful in writing a product in a situation where if you have two beta hydrogens. Okay. So both alkenes you get, but among them which one is major? That is what you have to mention. Okay. And how do you select the major product? On Sade-Gieff's rule. This is important. Okay. So now we will move on to the third chemical property, reaction with metals. Under this chemical reaction we have two equations. One is reaction with Mg. Okay. The other one is reaction with sodium. Reaction with sodium. This reaction with Mg is also called with the name Grignard reaction. Very, very important. And this is called with the name Woods reaction. We have already studied in class 11 Woods reaction in the hydrocarbons chapter, isn't it? So anyway, forget about this. Now we will learn it again. Okay, so first let's talk about reaction with Mg. So let me take Rx as the general formula for alkyl halide. When you heat with Mg in presence of dry ether, so here we are taking ethers as the solvent. This is the best example for organic solvent, and we are using dry ether. That means this particular solvent should not have any moisture content or any water content. If water content is there, you know, Mg is a very reactive metal. It violently reacts with water. Okay, so instead of the main reaction, there happens a side reaction. Mg starts violently reacting with water. Okay, so that's why you should see that, make sure that there is no moisture in a reaction mixture. So that's why we have used the word dry ether. Okay, so writing a product is very simple, guys. Take this Mg and put in between R and X. See, R, Mg, X. So this Mg has come in between R and X. You will get RMgX. Okay, so this is alkyl magnesium halide. And this is the general formula for Grignard reagent. This is also called with the name Grignard reagent. Okay, suppose I will have CH3Br, and when I heat with Mg in presence of dry ether, tell me what is the type of Grignard reagent do we get? You will get CH3MgBr, methyl magnesium bromide. This Grignard reagent is very, very special. Why? Because here the R part is negative. Okay, Mg is more electropositive than carbon, right? So this R part is negative, whereas Mg is positive. This bond is covalent, whereas polarity is there in a bond. That means C carries a slightly negative charge, Mg carries a slightly positive charge. That is the speciality of Grignard reagent. Okay, fine. And coming to Woods reaction. Very simple here. We take two molecules of alkyl halide. So one molecule I'll write as it is. This reacts with two sodium atoms. You know, another alkyl halide molecule, let me write it this way. This is one alkyl halide molecule. This is another alkyl halide molecule. So both of them I am heating in presence of sodium in dry ether. Here also we use the solvent dry ether itself. So what happens here is X part of one molecule, X part of another molecule will come outside. Okay, so what do you get as a byproduct? This Na combines with 1X, you will get two molecules of NaX as byproduct. Main product, join this R part with this R part. So you will get R bond R, which is nothing but alkanes. So you will get alkanes, hydrocarbons as the major product. Okay, so let me give you one example so that you will understand better. CH3Br. Okay, I'll take one more molecule of CH3Br. I'll heat it with two sodium atoms. What is the product you will get? This Br of another molecule, all of them are coming out with sodium. So what is the main product? What is remaining? So this is the R part, this is the R part. Join both of them. CH3 bond CH3, which is nothing but ethane. So when you take methyl bromide and when you conduct Woods reaction, which alkane do you get? Ethane you will get. Okay, so this is all about the Woods reaction. So this is all about the chapter haloalkanes. Okay, now I'll end the session with a question based on a Woods reaction. Okay, say through Woods reaction, how do you prepare butane? If you have to prepare butane, tell me what type of Rx, which Rx you will take for Woods reaction. Okay, so our target is to prepare butane. So to prepare butane, which alkyl halide should we take as the starting material for Woods reaction? So that is the question. Post your answer in the comment section. Let me know who will answer better. Okay, so that's all about today's video, and we have completed haloalkanes. Okay, so keep learning and subscribe our channel to learn the concepts in a easiest way. See you all in the next video. Thank you so much.